Today we're going to discuss accessibility and service points on a Kubota compact track loader. This is an SVL 92. We'll use it for a demonstration on access to the engine service points, but also moving the cab up where we can get to the hydraulics or deeper service points on the machine. As we go around, we'll point out, we'll actually remove 5 bolts. 3 to remove the radiator, 2 to remove the cab, but it's actually a quick operation and we wanted to show that to you today. Now we're going to go ahead and open the engine compartment. We'll lock the door open with the locking pin that Kubota provides. Then we're going to remove the 3 bolts so we can slide the radiator out, tip it back, and show access to the service point. When we open the hood, at the hinge corner they've provided us with a locking pin. If we're on a slope or if we're in a windy condition, this allows us to lock the door in place. They are a heavy door that provides protection to the machine when backing up or working in tight quarters. But this lock will keep the door from swinging at us or swinging away from us or doing any damage in a windy location or also in on a hillside or slope. The 3 bolts that hold the radiator here, one located up towards the top here and also on bottom. This allows us to tip the radiator out. We actually roll it out on these nylon bushings and then the radiator tips. They provided some opportunity under the hood. Kubota's given us good access for our daily routine inspections and checkpoints. We can check our engine oil here. Air filter accessibility is very handy here. Our coolant overflow is very accessible here. If we do need to get to the top of our battery, this is quickly removable where we can get it out of the way, access the top of our battery. On the other side of the radiator, now you go. On the other side of the radiator, we have access to our water separator for our fuel, also our fuel filter and fuel shutoff are all accessible from the rear of the cab without removing the radiator. If we need to get to the front of the engine or the back of the radiator, access just allows us more space as we remove the securing points on it. 3 bolts are removed and put in a safe place. Then the radiator needs to be pulled directionally straight out, and it rolls on these Teflon bushings. The radiator hose has a holding hook that we need to remove so it'll allow that kind of space, and then the radiator pops out. Once we've done that, we have good access to our compressor, our tensioner pulley, also our alternator, belt tensioner. The entire front of the engine compartment is accessible, even to reach the inside of the radiator and oil cooler, front of the fan. Check any of the belt tensions. All of those are easily accessible in service or working points. Now let's move to the front of the machine and we'll lift the cab. Does not require us to lift the loader arms, but we'll lift the cab and remove that so we can see other service points or accessibility issues to the Kubota compact track loader. Now at the front of the cab, there are 2 bolts that actually secure the cab in the corner of the front pillars. Once these 2 bolts are removed, we can lift the cab, and there's actually a gas cylinder with a lock that will hold the cab in place. And there's also a cab lock on the rear of the machine. We'll go ahead and remove those now. Easiest to lift the cab completely if we move up onto the machine to get a little bit more lift. If you heard that click, back here on this hydraulic cylinder, we actually have a lock that fell into place. So we can see the warning sign on it, but it falls into place and will hold the cab from coming back down on us. We'll now move to the rear of the machine and put a lock in place so that it will be ready to work underneath the cab. Now, before we go underneath the hood, underneath the cab to work, we do need to install a physical lock that's at the hinge on the right rear of the cab, and you'll see it here in the red pin. I'm going to reach up there. Our back bumper actually works as a very handy step. We can get right to it. Pull this pin, goes right through, and it's locked in place, and now we're ready to access the underside of the cab. Alright, now that we've secured the cab in the up position with the lock, we're going to step into the cab and see some of the features and benefits here. Earlier we set down our bolts and tools in the floorboard of the machine. If we take a closer look, the floorboard actually has a toolbox provided that goes with the machine. Then if you have service tools that you like to keep with you for attachments, small tools, hand tools of that nature, they can actually be stored with you as you use the machine and travel, not at another vehicle, and the floor mat goes right back in place. As I step into the cab, we can see a few things that Kubota has done for us. They provided a full dust cover and a compressible gasket that goes all the way around as the cab attaches to the compact track loader. It also carries all the way up the frame rail that keeps the cab isolated to dust and the elements. We have complete access to the top of the hydraulic tank. What we see here is an emergency letdown. If there was a problem and a person was in the machine, there's a red button out here that will be removed. You can press that with no power and no power to the machine at all to let down the hydraulics in an emergency. We have access to the top of the fuel tank, the sending unit, the main pumps, drives, all completely accessible. From the front, we can reach all the way back to the starter, through the back wall. Our air conditioning condenser is up on top of the pan so it doesn't block the two segments from each other. Good accessibility, both the back of the engine, hydraulics, and electronics, with simply 2 bolts removed, not having to raise the loader arms, not having to have the machine supported. If the machine does need to be worked on with the loader arms in the up position, there is a physical lock that is stored along the frame rail that you can take off and install on the hydraulic ram and the loader arm to physically lock out the loader also. But this shows you the accessibility and ease of service on the Kubota compact track loaders. Also, as a person enters the cab of the Kubota compact track loader, 2 things you'll notice: at the lower right portion of the cab, there is a toolbox underneath the floorboard, but we have the sight glass for the hydraulic fluid, and also this red button is actually a pull-out, a rubber pull-out that can be pulled out of the machine. It gives you access to the emergency hydraulic letdown. If a person got in a situation with no power, ran out of fuel, and the loader arms are in the up position and need to put them down with an emergency without access, this is actually where the valve is to let that down, so that we can do that without power to the controls if there is a mechanical malfunction. This concludes our look at the accessibility and serviceability of the compact track loader made by Kubota and looking at the SVL 90 Series 2. For more information, you can contact us at greatplainskubota.com. Also, you can reach any of our stores located in Ada, Duncan, and Shawnee at 855-4-KUBOTA.